Hey everybody, it is Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. Another late night output. Had a very long day at work and some family things, but I do have some important news I wanted to share with you. I'm going to talk about how some landlords are getting very desperate, and we're also going to talk about the possibility of endless stimulus, and this is approaching universal basic income territory as we have been predicting for a long time, even before the shutdown that began in March 2020 and the virus panic that was part of that. We had predicted for a long time that the goal or the push was going to be to get as many people dependent on handouts as possible. And we see that it's coming to fruition here with the now the third stimulus check has been approved. That's going to be going out. It's going to be $1,400 per person that qualifies, and the family of seven is going to get a very nice payout, or a family of five rather, for example, will get a payout of $7,000. So we can see that these stimulus programs are getting bigger and bigger, nearly 2 trillion in the last package. One of the sad parts of that, and we talked about this in our last video, is that the people are only getting a very small portion of the overall funds. And we looked at a couple scenarios. We looked at the total population, about 330 something million in the US. If it was given out to everybody, you would get almost $6,000 per person if you take the 1.9 trillion and just give it out to every man, woman, and child. We also looked at just 140 something million taxpayers. If you just give the checks to the taxpayers, instead of giving it to governments and foreign aid and all this other stuff, that you would have gotten, I believe, between 12 and 13,000, if I remember in that video. That's how the math breaks down. There was a lot of debate on how much of the check actually goes to the people, and I thought I would break it down in that video. So that was our previous video where we also talked about Harry Dent. So check that out if you haven't already. But let's talk about the story here. And we're going to start seeing a lot more stories like this. Bogus eviction attempt of pregnant woman lands Jefferson Parish deputy under internal probe. So this is still under investigation, under a probe as it says. But what happened was a policeman knocked on this woman's door, and he was technically off duty, but he was in his patrol car. And he did not have any eviction paperwork. So from the outside looking in, it looks like that the homeowner may have tried to get a police officer, maybe someone that he knew personally, but tried to get a police officer to evict this woman by knocking on her door, and he had his hand on his pistol as he was having her come and answer the door and speaking with her. So it was kind of a frightening moment for this woman, and it was caught on video. Now, there was a lot of angry words thrown here, so I won't play the video, but I will put a link down to this video here because she was recording it, the confrontation. Frances Taps was 8 months pregnant when a Jefferson Parish sheriff's vehicle rolled up to her apartment on Thursday evening, demanding to speak with the tenant. He got out in his uniform, walked up to her apartment, and banged on the window while yelling, quote, "Y'all need to vacate the premises. Get out," unquote. And the tenant said the following quote, "So I opened the door. The officer's got his hand on his gun," unquote. And then she started recording on her camera phone, quote, "Okay, you're a Jefferson Parish police?" The police officer responded, "I am a private citizen." And the tenant said, "You have to go through the process. You have to get a judgment. You're circumventing the courts. No one is above the law." All right, so we see another landlord that is obviously getting to the end of his patience, or probably the end of his money, because he has a non-paying tenant. And we know with the eviction moratorium that a lot of landlords now are trying to go around the process because the courts are so backed up. And even if you get the case seen, there is the eviction moratorium. So we see things like this. We talked a couple weeks ago about how one landlord kidnapped his tenants, and he is under he's having charges filed against him right now. All right, so quick tip. One, police officers do not like it if you know your rights. Also, police officers typically don't like it when you record them, but it's okay for them to record you. Right, I'm not trying to be anti-police here. Actually, my father was a policeman. But this is just the truth. If you know your rights, the police officers really don't like that. Sometimes it'll make them not mess with you. Other times, if you try to flex your rights or flex your knowledge, they'll go after you even harder. But that's beside the point. That's the topic for a different video. But we're going to report more incidents like this, as we still see between 10 and 20 million people now that are behind on their rent. And the situation's not getting much better, even with the so-called economic recovery. Now let's talk about what Jeffrey Gundlach has to say about this stimulus. And he's thinking it's going to become permanent stimulus. And I think that is going to be happening as well. Permanent expanded unemployment benefits, more frequent stimulus checks. Ultimately, it's going to be every month to most of the people. As we see this MMT, modern monetary theory, transforming into exactly what we thought was going to happen. A more dependent population, bigger and more frequent payouts to a majority of the population. And in this interview, Gundlach refers to MMT as the magic money tree. That's another abbreviation for MMT. And he says the following quote: "The biggest problem is we become totally addicted to these stimulus programs. People may be starting to believe that stimulus is permanent, and we can see real need for endless stimulus," unquote. So there we go. Another mainstream economist saying what we've been saying on this channel for years, that this is going to be a permanent program. It started off as just a small percentage of the population many decades ago relied on handouts to make a living, to stay alive, to keep roof over their head, to keep their mouths fed, to keep their bellies full. And then you saw it expand with more and more people dependent on the system, more and more handouts, more debt from the money printers, and add on more debt on top of what it already is the world's largest debtor nation, the United States of America. But yet somehow people think everything's going to be fine here in the United States. No problem. We're going to recover from this. The sickness will go away. Everyone's going to get their jobs back. Everyone will be happy. No problems, nothing to fear, nothing to worry about, nothing to prepare for. Just go ahead and don't even be concerned, because the government's going to pay for everybody and everything. Who knows, after the farmers all go bankrupt, maybe the government will end up growing everybody's food. I'm sure it's going to be really nice, healthy food too, coming from the government. There's not going to be any contaminants. No poisons, no GMOs. It's going to be fresh, organic grown food. You can bet the government's only going to give you the best care, right? All right, everybody. I hope you know I was sarcastic on that last bit there. Thanks for watching this report. Hope you're doing well at this time. If you still have a job, if you are not dependent on handouts, consider yourself very blessed at this moment. Even if you are dependent on handouts, do not be ashamed. The system was designed to put as many people as possible in this spot, with people being dependent on the money printers. That's what they want: more control. A controlled, dependent population is a population that will not rise up against the power grabbers, let's call them, for lack of a better term. Thanks everybody for watching. Stay well, stay safe, stay prepared. Bye for now.